Red, White, and Royal Blue. Chapter 11. Ground Beneath. Weeks passed, and the world didn't crumble. Instead, it shifted quietly, subtly, like tectonic plates settling into a new shape. Alex returned to Georgetown for the first time since everything changed. The university's auditorium buzzed with anticipation. The crowd was packed students, faculty, journalists, alumni. The applause that welcomed him wasn't just polite. It was powerful, resonant. He had become more than a name. In the news, he was a voice people wanted to hear. His speech was passionate, but honest. He spoke about change, pressure, love, and visibility. When the Q&A began, hands shot up. A young woman stood and asked, "How do you carry this weight and still believe in love?" Alex paused, glanced down at the podium, then looked back at her. "Because love isn't the weight," he said. "It's what holds you up. The pressure, that's politics. The weight, that's fear. But love is what reminds you why you carry any of it in the first place." The room was silent for a heartbeat, then broke into applause. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Henry had returned to his royal duties. He cut ribbons at hospital wings, greeted children at school libraries, and shook hands with dignitaries. But something had changed in the air around him. Reporters asked questions with a different tone now. Curious, yes, but also respectful. People smiled more sincerely. Strangers approached to thank him. One elderly woman clasped his hand during a charity visit and whispered, "Thank you for showing my grandson he's not alone." Henry squeezed her hand and smiled, heart full. Evenings remained their time. Henry and Alex still carved out hours, despite time zones and chaos. They read poetry to each other, traded political jokes, and shared their favorite childhood memories. One night, Alex said over the call, "I think I want to write something real, something that lasts, not memos, maybe a book." Henry raised an eyebrow. "A memoir or a political manifesto?" Alex laughed. "More like an honest story about this, about what it means to love and serve, and how those things don't have to conflict." Henry grinned. "Call it love and legislation. I'll proofread every chapter." Their laughter echoed through the call, and in that moment, miles apart but deeply connected, they realized something. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was living. This was building. And somewhere in all that lightness, they found balance, the ground beneath their feet, growing steadier with every step they took. Chapter 12. The Distance Narrows. Spring melted into summer, and with it, the miles between them began to feel smaller, not just geographically, but emotionally. The days were longer, and with every passing moment, the quiet yearning that had lived in the spaces between calls and headlines began to soften into something steadier, stronger. Alex flew to London under the guise of a diplomatic visit, though everyone around him knew the real reason. The press shadowed him closely. Flashbulbs, headlines, assumptions. But they didn't see what mattered, the stolen moments that filled his lungs with ease again. Midnight walks along the Thames with only the moonlight for company, hands brushing in Kensington Gardens, laughter under a drizzle of rain that neither tried to run from. Henry greeted him at the private wing's entrance, dressed down, unguarded. There were no uniforms, no official salutes, just a long, wordless hug that said everything. "It's been too long," Alex whispered, face buried against Henry's shoulder. "It always is," Henry murmured back, eyes closed. What followed were days carved out of time, hushed and golden. They wandered dusty old bookstores and debated Austen versus Orwell over cups of tea. They escaped the noise of the city, fleeing to the countryside where the air was clearer and their thoughts freer. There, in the dappled shade of an ancient oak, Henry leaned in and kissed Alex without hesitation, and for once, without fear. They cooked together in the royal kitchen late at night, burning toast and laughing at mismatched recipes. Henry introduced Alex to secret corridors in the palace. Alex taught Henry how to make proper Tex-Mex. They lived in those days like the world was on pause, like history had given them a quiet corner to breathe. Back in Washington, life spun on, but something in their messages shifted. The texts came not just with jokes or headlines, but with tentative, hopeful questions. What if we lived in Austin? Would you be okay with waking up next to me every morning? Future tense became present thought. On the last night, as the sun sank behind Buckingham's silhouette and the sky turned lavender, Alex sat cross-legged on the carpet, folding shirts. Henry watched from the doorway, quiet, something heavy yet calm in his eyes. He stepped forward and handed Alex a folded sheet of thick paper. "It's not official," Henry said, voice low. "Yet, but I want you to read it." Alex unfolded the paper slowly. It was a speech, Henry's, unspoken, unfinished. In it, he confessed the weight of silence, the cost of hiding, and the hope he'd found in love. In Alex. It was vulnerable, it was brave. "I will speak it," Henry said, his voice steady. "When it's time, when I'm ready to say it not just for us, but for anyone who needs to hear it." Alex looked up, eyes wet but steady. He carefully folded the paper and placed it into his bag. "I'll be there," he said, "when you do." And in that quiet, in that unwavering exchange, the distance between them didn't just narrow, it disappeared.